In this video, we are going to create our first app in Thunkable. The first thing you have to do is to go to this address x.thunkable.com//login. To use Thunkable, you need to have a Google account, which I assume you have one. So what you do is that you click on the sign in with Google. And since I am already signing with Google, it automatically goes into my account. As you can see, there is nothing in my account in Thunkable. So I'm going to click on Start Building. Now you have to type the name of the first project. Let's call it Hello World. Usually that's the first program that you write in any computer programming language, and we follow the same format, and we are going to call our first program Hello World. You can type, this is the optional, you can type the category, you can say if this is educational or entertainment, whatever. And since we have a free account, all the projects are public. If you want to make it private, then you have to join to Thunkable, which you have to pay to have your projects private. At the moment, we don't need to do anything, so we're just going to make it public again, and then we are going to start creating our first one.
Hi there, and welcome to Thunkable, the platform where anyone can build their...
You can watch it on your own, but when you start your first project or any project in Thunkable, you will see a screen like this one. On the left hand side, what you see is the tree which represents the components in your app. For instance, here right now we have no components in our app. We haven't done anything. The only thing we have is one screen, and it's called screen 1. In this application, we also talk about how to create the second screen, but at the moment we just work with screen 1. The other thing which is on the left is the components part. These are the items on the screen that is going to be visible to the user. Examples are buttons, labels, text input, and so forth. In the rest of the course, we are going to cover some of these blocks as we go along. In the middle one is a display of what is going to be shown to the user of the app. Here you see just a screen with the screen 1, which is the name of the screen, in the middle, and there is no item already set on the screen. So because we haven't added any blocks, you don't see anything. On the right hand side, you're going to see the properties of the blocks on this design. Right now there is no blocks, there is only screen 1, and this is what you see. You see the properties of screen 1. For instance, you can have a background picture on your design. You can have background color. For instance, you can set the background color to any color that you want, or you can go and change other properties of your app, which we are not going to talk about at this moment. So what we are going to do is, the first thing is that we are going to erase the background color that we just did. So I just clicked on the crossbar on the right, and I deleted the background color. For instance, if I click on this one, the background changes to this color. If I don't want it, just go back here and click on this icon, and it's going to erase the background color. A very important feature of this online app design is the preview. You can look at the design and the functionality on your screen here without using any device, Android or iOS. If I click on preview, you can see this is the preview of my app. There is nothing on the app yet, so you see just a white blank screen. If I want to go back to editing of my app, I just click on edit and it goes back to the same screen. So let's start creating our first simple app. What we are going to create is an app which is composed of two blocks. One is a button and the other one is a label. A button is easy. You know what exactly is a button. You can click on the button and do something. To find the button, if you go to components here, you see the button is the top one. If you can't see the component, just type button and then you will see the component which is the same as what you wanted. So I'm going to left click on this one, hold it, and then drag and drop it on the screen. Now, there are two types of components in thunkable. One is visible, like this one, and the other ones are invisible. We will talk about invisible components in the later videos, but at the moment, the visible one are like button. When you drag and drop them, they are going to go straight on your design screen. The invisible components, they end up at the bottom of the screen here, and they are not going to be on the design because the user cannot see them. Now, the other element that we want is a label. To find a label, I'm going to just to type label here, and you see the user interface label appears here. Now, I can either put the label at the bottom of the button or on the top. So let's add it on the top. So I have two components on my screen. One is called label and the other one is button. If you want to see how it looks so far, you click on preview and you can see you have a button which doesn't do anything and a label which just says label. So let's go ahead and change the label, one of the properties which is very important. A label has a simple, okay, click on label and then click on simple, then go down the properties. You will see a property called visible. When the label property visible is true, then it means the user can see it. If I set it to false, you can see that it disappears. If I go to preview, you can see that there is no label, there is no text here. The reason is the visibility is false here. So what we are going to do is that we are going to set initially the property of the label to be invisible. Now, another property of the label, just make sure that the label is selected, is the color of the text and the font. Let's change the font to be something like 50, a large font. Also, let's change the color of the text in the label. Let's change it to something like, let's say, this color. You can pick any color you want. And then click outside. You can see the color changed. So this is the color of the label. Now, let's go and change the property of the button. First of all, what I want is that the text on the button, I don't want it to say button. I want to say click on this button. So you can see that the text on the button changed to click on this button. You can also change the background and the text color. For instance, here for the text color, I can click on this one and I can set the text color to be something like red, this color. Now, if you change it, you can see that the color changed. Now, let's change the background color of the button instead of blue to something like, say, light gray. So to change the background color, click on this one. Then I want something like, let's say, let's change to something like yellow, this color. Okay? So hopefully you got an idea how to change these properties. Let's change the font size of the text on the button to be something like 25. Let's say it's much bigger now. Now, the other property which is important is the name of the block in your design. The reason is because in your coding, you have to refer to button and label based on the name that you assigned to each one of them. Make sure you name them accordingly. For instance, if you look at this button, the name appears on the top. It says button 1. You can go ahead and change the name. For instance, instead of button 1, let's call it just button. Okay? Nothing changes about the appearance, but the name that you can refer into programming this button is going to now change to block. You will see in a minute what I mean. Let's go and change the same thing about the label. So I'm going to, because the label is invisible, I can't click on it. So I'm going to go to the tree here and I'm going to click on the label. You can see the name of the label is label. Let's change it to just label instead of label 1. Now, everything about the design is finished. Now let's go ahead and write the code or build the app. To do the programming part, I go to blocks here. Now, this one is where you program your app. Here on the left, you see the items that you have on your design. One is called label and the other one is called block. The app that we want to design is when I click on button, I want to make the label to be visible and display some text. So I'm going to click on button here and you will see all the functions which are supported by this button. The one that I want is says when block click. So I just left click on this one and then drag and drop it here. Now, when I click on the button, I want to change the text of the label and also the visibility to be true. So I'm going to click on label to change the properties and I'm going to change the text. So to do that one, I'm going to use this one, label.text. I want to set this value. So I'm going to click on and bring it here and I'm going to just type hello world here. This changing is not going to display the label because the label, if you remember, we set it to invisible. So I have to also change the visibility here. So again, I click on label and I go down and I'm going to try to find the visible block. Here it says set visible. So I'm going to drag and drop one here after this message. And here I want to set the visible to be true, which is already set to true. Now, this is about the code that we have to do. Let's go back to our design and see how it looks. If I go to preview, you can see that the block is here, the button. When I click on it, you can see it says hello world. When I click again, still it shows hello world. So let's write a app that when I click on this button here, it's going to change to the label to invisible if it was previously visible, and change it to visible if it was previously invisible. So let's see how we can do it. Again, we go to edit and we go to blocks. Here in this part, I'm setting the visibility to true, but I want, whenever I click on the button, I want to change the visibility of the previous state, the opposite value. Meaning, if it was true, I want to change it to false. If it was false, I want to change it to true. One of the primitive functions that you can find in thunkable is under logic. So click on logic, you will see all these operators that you will use later on when you're writing, different program. But one of them, which is very important, is the not. What not do is going to change the value of a Boolean variable to the opposite value. So here, if I assign the not, the visibility property of the label is going to change it. If it was true, meaning visible, it's going to change it false. If it was false, it's going to change it to true. So how do you get the previous visibility property of label? You go back to label, and down here, I can get the visibility. If you go down, I can get this one. This one returns, as you can see, it says get. It returns the value of the property visible of the label. So I drag and drop here and put it right here. And it's going to make it not. Now, if I take this one and I put it here, look what will happen. When I click on the button, the text changes to hello world. Okay? Now, the visibility is going to be the opposite of the previous visibility of label. If the label was visible, now it becomes not visible. So it's going to become false here. If the visibility was false, it's going to become true. Let's see how it's going to appear in our design. If I click on preview, initially it's false because this is what we said. If I click, it says hello world. If I click again, then because it's visible, it has to become invisible. You see? Visible, invisible, visible, invisible.